document what happened on jobs and whatnot. I still give a detailed report of what I do, but
Will that take you to cash?
When do you want me to catch?
Well, not in 3 months.
Well, no.
Okay.
I mean, it'd be Friday.
That's perfect.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
I gotta get my picture of this done.
Yeah, whatever. I'll have.
I haven't had a chance.
I normally don't.
I know, I hear
don't
you.
let them
I'm
sit.
gonna try to have a proof or something
Because I know
by
people want to
Friday.
Friday.
I'll send out to everybody.
Yeah, I'll try.
I know.
I thought we were, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I came home, took a shower and everything.
Cindy calls me, she goes, did you get that text from me? I'm like,
Where's she?
Yeah.
Haven't done it.
Changed his underwear, he's not seeing the doctor.
well, that's been like 2 weeks. So we gotta,
Oh,
we went
yeah.
out and picked it up.
Oh, I do have a check for you. I'm supposed to bring that tonight,
I'm like, Jesus.
right?
Hey, remind me to ask you about the.
Is tonight supposed to be the night?
Good dad.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't.
All day long.
Good, it was good. Yeah.
I'll make sure I get it in the
Stuff.
bank on Friday.
There was at least 3 that were very well worthwhile the whole time.
Give me just a second,
Gavin
Paul.
and Ashley were
Yeah.
both saying they got to chat with you
Yep.
guys.
I never been to one of those backwards of you.
No,
Holy shit, it's at the parkway.
yeah, I heard it's a,
You put the warehouse, it's huge.
yeah.
3 minutes.
I know, my uncle talked my ear off for about an hour and a half at a birthday party or something.
I seriously think I've asked him 3 or 4
Oh
times.
my.
I went in, he gave me.
But it doesn't make sense.
They scan it.
I feel like it should be finance information
U10.
services.
It's kinda like a crack.
That's what I wanna call it.
I mean, like, you don't know how bad it's gonna be.
Yeah. Yeah. This was, he bought a gun case, it was still in the box.
Yeah, that's what I mean,
And some of the stuff you could see was like, taped up.
yeah.
No. She's
Hey, Kelly.
Hi.
Okay, thank you. Hey, how are you? Thank you.
Okay, see here, sign by.
Oh, it's
And I
not
type my name in.
Yeah. Some of them we have to split up between a
Okay.
couple nights.
Then I just sign it like this.
Or like do some.
That's it.
I start to go cross-stitted.
Oh, I get paid for today.
Your signature starts to change.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
That's all you can see is the E and the B.
What's up, my man?
And all I have to do for a couple more years. 65.
Madam Solicitor, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm wonderful.
Hoping to go at
Good to
67.
see you.
You do.
Not everyone says that, but, me. Thank you.
250, right, Paul?
I mean, it'd be nicer if it was like spring weather right now.
Yeah.
I'd much prefer that.
Baldwin Borough Democratic Organization.
BBD up.
You could just.
Just to let's put it somewhere different every time.
Baldwin,
I tell you what, I've been holding off cutting my
I
grass.
see the
and
little
then
ones and then I'm like, hey.
Democratic.
Well, me too, but every one of my neighbors was cutting yesterday. I'm like,
So you told me to make it out to
close enough. I said,
BBDO.
I'm
Yeah.
late.
I haven't cut mine yet.
In Sunday's paper, on the back of the front page, there was a really good article about the guys that worked Oakland and what they want the grass as close.
Everybody ready?
We ready to call this meeting to order? All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Really interesting. That was a good read.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call, Mr. Fair.
Mrs. Conley. Mr. Eggert.
Here.
Mr. Hayhurst.
Here.
Mr. Rambo.
Here.
Mrs. Boyer.
Here.
Mr. D.
Here?
Mrs. Brown.
Here.
Mayor DePratis.
Here.
Mr. Stanton.
Here.
Mrs. Wagner.
Here.
Robert Farrick is here, and Chief Cortazzo.
Thank you, Mr. Fair. Next up is audience agenda. Anybody in the audience have anything related to the agenda that they'd like to speak about? I haven't seen audience tonight. Okay, moving on then to the engineer's report with Mr. Stanton.
Thank you, Madam President. We distributed our monthly memorandum. I'll hit the highlights, starting first with sanitary sewer system work. The last remaining projects under our Phase 2 consent order with the Health Department, the piping work's been done. that is in the M34 and M42 watershed. Contractors working on restoration on Young Drive and Brazil Street. Also, under that same category, if you will, the next to the last request for reimbursement to Alcosan was submitted mid last month for their review and ultimately dispersal of some of the grant funding for that. We're following up on that. On a regional transfer agreement, Alcosan scheduled a conference call with the M34 municipalities. That's our Bex Run municipalities. There's three primary municipalities or authorities, Baldwin Borough, Mount Oliver, and Pittsburgh Water. In the reason for that meeting was to see where everyone was at relative to regionalization. Apparently Mount Oliver's ready. Pittsburgh Water is still going through the process, and we advise that we're still evaluating our options. So just want to let council to know that Alcosan is still interested in that, and I'll keep council updated if anything else evolves from there. Again, under sanitary sewer improvements, one of the projects that we had talked about last month was the rear Leona Drive project, the sanitary sewer that bridges both Baldwin and Whitehall on the Doyle Road side. Whitehall Borough is interested in a joint grant application to the Commonwealth Finance Authority for PA Small Water and Sewer Grant Program. So we're finishing up the scope, the OPC and the cost estimate, and we'll have the resolution required to Bob, so it's on next week's agenda for approval. Missionary Drive, we're getting to the end of the design on that. There'll be two right-of-ways that we're collaborating with Mr. Lubin on to get those signed, and then tentatively open bids as authorized by the Stormwater Authority, and then award bids at their June board meeting. An update on rear Louisa sewer repair, Public Works and the contractor were able to clear that blockage there and get the flow back to normal in that area. Road programs, just as a heads up, the schedule is to advertise this week, open bids early May, and then award tentatively at our May 19th council meeting, which is a Monday because we're moving because of election day. So that's the update there. In terms of the pole, the mechanical contractor started work. The pole heaters replaced. They were working on some other piping this week. Also, the general contractor, contract PK3, Shiloh Construction, is planning on starting mobilizing next week. They're the exterior contractor with all the piping for the spray features and the liner and the gutter. And one other element that we were able to tie down this week was to have a meeting with Shiloh and a CoStar's vendor called If It's Water. That's the company name. They've provided a quotation, CoStar's quotation, for procurement and installation of their slide, and that'll require action at next week's council meeting. And also the spray features authorized by council, some of those have started coming in. So there is some activity moving on the pole. Under our storage building improvements, from our 2023 local share account grant funding, $250,000. We're completing the final design on those improvements, block work, truss work, door work, both, the entry doors, modifying the entry, sealing the interior, a lot of those type of improvements. Also anticipating opening bids mid-May and awarding May 19th, provided the bids are reasonable. McAnulty Park, we've started on those surveys, and the tentative thinking is to schedule a bid opening in late May to award in June. Borough building public safety improvements, meaning isolating our parking lot for our police protection with gated key fob access. Our staff met with Bob and Chief Cortazzo, kind of go over the details, talk about the routing plan that was done last week, and we anticipate opening bids in early June on that as well. Two grant applications to give council a heads up on the Greenways Trails and Rec program. We're anticipating filing that grant request by the end of May, so that'll need a resolution at our May meeting. The scope tentatively there is for lighting improvements, very much similar to the LSA grant that we've already filed, and a separate application for Coalwood Field improvements pertaining to the lower ball field, improved grading, surfacing with some irrigation. We're working on that OPC, and we'll have those resolutions and things like that at May's council meeting. Not a lot of updates under development, and I think I covered all the updates under the grant application, which is the last 2 pages. So in 7 minutes or less, that's a summary of the engineering tasks.
That was beautiful.
That was good.
Beautiful.
But I'll do my best to answer any
for Mr.
questions.
Chan?
Yeah, just a quick couple, Jason. On the slide, given that it's a CoStarz quotation, is there any premium that they put on the physical slide, or basically is there wiggle room on the labor?
It's actually a bid contract, so they're fixed prices that were negotiated through the Department of General Services in Harrisburg.
Right.
So there really isn't really any wiggle room.
Okay.
And the thinking was that once we found a slide that we liked that fit our general area in terms of real estate down there, and that's a key consideration because slides can, range from the Blue Tumbaluba down at the Sandcastle to our smaller area that we have down there in our deep end. We've found a very nice Dole tube that we liked. For the longest time, we tried to find the CoStarz vendor to be able to purchase that. Finally, we found the vendor, got that quote, and I think it'll be a good amenity to the new pole. It's a little bit different than our current slide. It has a little bit of a loop-de-doo.
So it's technical?
Yes, that's
Super duper double looper.
Yeah.
Can we call it that and get a sign made?
Yeah.
and
The one and only, yeah.
it's available in an assortment of colors. The most difficult might be picking the color. But it is a CoStarz vendor. Spectrum Aquatics is the manufacturer. They only distribute to licensed installers, meaning in our scope for Shiloh, their bid unit price $12,000 to $15,000 to install the slide.
Okay,
We're gonna pull that out of their contract.
okay.
And the quote that we'll have on the agenda next week is for procurement, freight, shipping, installation, warranty, and everything. And so the coordination call last week was with Shiloh was in terms of the details, in terms of grounding, because the pool liner, everything needs to be appropriately grounded. That's one of the final inspection items. And Shiloh asked a question where they needed their grounding rod so that they could tie in once they get here. The vendor was a little shocked during the call because he was thinking that it's about a 4-month turnaround time. And when he said it's 4 months and we didn't blink, he said, well, we're under construction this year. If you can get it here by September, that's about when the general contractor would be ready to install it, after all the concrete's done and all the water lines and grounding and everything. And he's saying, so you don't need it installed next week. No. We knew it was gonna take 4 months. But yeah, those are fixed prices. That was a long-winded answer for a direct question there, fixed prices.
I appreciate the color. And just on the other one, on the public safety improvements, while it's much needed, I think all of council is in favor of it. I just wanted to ask about would it be an electronic opening? And so there will be a minimum ongoing cost after installation of electricity.
Yes.
Is that
Yeah,
correct?
and I don't have those
And I know it's very
details.
preliminary, but I just kind of
Yeah.
wanted to, okay, just get an idea for that. That's all I have.
Okay.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Stanton. Moving on then to the solicitor's report, Mrs. Wagner.
Thank you, Madam President. I do not have a report for the public portion of the meeting, although I do have 1 or 2 executive session items.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Wagner. Moving on then to administration, I'm skipping over the mayor. Mayor's report.
Thank you, Madam
Okay,
President. I will give my report at next week's meeting.
thank you. Moving on then to administration with Mr. Fair.
Thank you, Madam President. Got a couple items to go over with council. The fire department consolidation, nothing new to report there. We're still on track from the report that Mr. D gave. The fire recruitment and retention committee.
Well, this Thursday is the orphans court.
Oh, it is? Excellent.
10 o'clock.
Is that like a one-time thing, or is it gonna be?
This is it, it's the end.
Okay, it isn't like, okay, we'll extend, like,
Mhm.
we'll meet again tomorrow.
No, we're going
Oh,
to
that's
orphans
nice.
court, and
That's nice.
like, I was just speaking with the chief, he says usually you're in and out, and that we're anticipating it to,
What happens after that? What is the next step?
well, I think we're set, I think we're dissolved, we
Official.
have a new organization, we're
Nice.
official, and we'll probably have a little bit of, change over time.
Yeah.
Will you guys be down there, Butch?
I'm going down, the
You
three
going down there?
presidents, the 3 presidents of the 3 companies
Yeah.
are required to be there, so
Okay.
yeah.
Bob, is there anything that we need to do?
If
Like a
there-
new fire station or a fire truck or something like that, or?
Paperwork.
No, I mean, because they're independent,
Yeah.
volunteer
I didn't know.
independent companies, so yeah, there's no,
If
nothing
there was
on our
anything
end
that we
of
needed
things.
to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Thanks.
The tri-community fire discussions, I kind of eliminated a lot of the pre-stuff that we had in there and just, included, where we're at, because it's gonna get lengthy. So we've got, last month's meeting, the scope of work was, we thought we were gonna go in and say, here's our, the plan was, all right, here's Baldwin's scope of work, here's Brentwood's, here's Whitehall's. They were very similar to each other, so that we basically said, you know what, there was a couple items that weren't on, ours that were on somebody else's and vice versa, or weren't on somebody else's, so we figured, let's just give all those to Rob, and then he could determine what is redundant and what is good, and what we can move on forward with that. So we figured that's what we're gonna do, contacted Rob. He's going to try and attend the next meeting, which is Thursday, April 24th at 6:30, Whitehall, Station Number 1. And at that meeting, hopefully he's going to identify for us the process and where we would be starting, and what we're going to be, what the expectations are going to be at that point. So we got that, plus the intergovernmental agreement is still being finalized by all three municipalities have the same law firm, Tucker, so they're in the process of getting that together. Once we get that, then we will be able to, at least confidently be able to move forward in paying Rob at that point. We want to wait till we get that intergovernmental agreement, but he agreed to move forward before we get that intergovernmental agreement. And then once we get that, it'll be presented to each of the communities councils, hopefully before next week, that we told them where we're going to be, time frame wise. Where our meeting is April 15th, Whitehall's is the 16th, and Brentwood's is the 21st. So hopefully we have that all for then, and then that might be presented to you next week's meeting just to approve. The capital improvement bond purchase agreement. As everybody knows, we went through the whole process, and on the Wednesday of the sale, which was March 26th, I got a call, and I had to be available. She said, make sure you're available so that she could say, yes, go ahead, go through with the bond. It was, nothing like this past week, but it was a pretty bad, volatile day that day. They only sold $1.2 million of the bond. There was about $820,000 that were still outstanding that hadn't been purchased. PNC stepped up and bought those bonds as a good faith effort, and so that was something they didn't have to do, but they did do. I thanked Alicia and her team. That was a tremendous thing for them to do. So they are going to take on those bonds, and whether they hold them or they sell them separately at some other point, that that's on to them to do. But she said in her 20-some years of doing this that was something that they've never seen before. I'm sure she's probably having that same conversation now a couple days later. Because of what happened up, that allowed us to wrap up the bond sale and move forward. So we are able to, confidently move forward with the pool improvements. But if that wouldn't have happened, I don't know where we would be. So that I just want to make sure everybody's well aware that that's what happened that day. But we're good and we're moving forward. I think the upgrade in our bond rating helped in that aspect of things too, I think. Mm-hmm.
I think it's a testament to the borough's relationship, long-standing relationship with PNC.
Yes, definitely. That definitely helped. That was one of the main factors that she mentioned as well. So thank you.
Bob, can you share any summary of sale documents that you have just to?
They don't have them yet. They're still being processed through. Matter of fact, I just signed another document today. I do believe on the schedule she gave us that it's later this month, April 26th, I believe, is the final date. So once we get all that, if
you could share that, I'd be interested in seeing that. And I know today in the muni market, almost not all of the deals, but a lot of deals got pulled from the calendar today,
really?
Just given the volatility.
Yeah,
so.
I think we squeaked this in right before the. Luckily it was they actually were pushing us to move forward a lot quicker. I don't know if they were anticipating, but this was a good thing that we got to where we're at. And right before this time, I mean, who knows where things are going. I feel bad for people that were planning on projects and planning on that money and counting on that money, where they may be, moving forward.
Or people close to retirement.
Yeah, that too.
I don't think that's funny.
No, I know, but it's the truth, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And it's, well, that's another discussion.
I can see the finish line.
This is true. The pool upgrades, Jason did a nice upgrade or update on all the projects and everything, so I won't belabor that. The motions that I'm looking for next week are going to be to authorize council to advertise for public works summer help. We do have 2 places that we have budgeted for. and we'll be looking for to put that advertisement out. We're not going to advertise in the Post Gazette or anything like that because, you know, we want to keep it local. I've reached out to the school district and asked them, you know, any graduating seniors that would be interested to please let them know that, and then we'll have it on our website as well. We're looking for, you know, college-age students and seniors in high school that are graduating. You know, those seem to be the right fit, the right people. You know, anybody younger.
How many are we hiring?
2. We're hiring 2, and the age is, you know, I think that, or I'm sorry, the pay is $16 per hour. This would be, you know, we're hoping, depending on what, you know, if it's a high schooler, obviously they're not going to get out until June, but if it's a college, some of them will probably be starting in May. So that's the anticipation. Next item is the employee handbook. We've updated some items. The HR officer, assistant manager, and myself have worked together to get some of these along with Ashley. She and her staff included some items that we discussed regards to work from home. You know, we also have made some changes in there that reflect the changes that were made in the Public Works contract that was ratified in December 23 that started being executed in 2024, where administration personnel mimic the healthcare and retirement plan options. So there were some changes in that. We want to make sure we include those in there. And the reason we do that, we mimic theirs, is because you know, we have such a small admin, and the cost if we went separately would be a lot larger. So we try and utilize the Public Works contract to mimic those. The police are a lot larger contracts, so theirs is a separate standalone. But between us and Public Works, that gives us a nice plan to be able to discuss with the healthcare operators and the retirement plans. Other items is correct some ambiguous language or unclear language that was needed to be added, and some language that our IT recommended be added as well with regards to you know, computers and certain things regards to, you know, work from home computers and using your phones to access any of the work, you know, server, etc. So standard internet policies and email policies that was included, and then again the work from home that Ashley and her crew have put together, and also the changes that we were required to put in for the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act is also included in there. So that's one of the changes, or those are the list of changes that are in the employee handbook, and that is attached to my report with a red line. You can see all the changes that were added into it. Also, next week will be on top of the resolution that Jason mentioned. We're going to need a resolution for civil service rule changes. That was the changes the council had approved, so we need to adopt those officially. And that'll be on the agenda next week for council's consideration, as well as a resolution for the tax collection committee delegate appointment. Apparently, they actually just had the vote last Thursday, and we were getting a lot of, you know, information regarding that. And Caitlin was going to attend, but then they were said, well, who's your voting delegate? You got to dig back into the archives to find out who the voting delegate was, and the voting delegate was labeled back in, I believe, 2009 or 7. I can't remember what date it was, but it specifically listed a specific person at the time, so who are no longer here, and there was no alternate, so that we were unable to vote. Not a big deal, but you know, could have been. So moving forward, this is going to designate the specific office as for the original, or for the voting delegate, it'll be the finance officer's office, or finance officer specifically, and then the manager is the alternate. So that will never need to be changed unless council decides at some point they want to change those items. That way, if you know, those people are no longer in place, you don't have the specific name. Or somebody retires, or somebody quits, or somebody moves on, you know, you don't want to keep changing that. So that's what we decided to do, that and put that on so that we can have that. So that'll be a resolution for everybody's consideration next week. And the Tri-Borough Community Food Drive, Whitehall, ourselves, and Brentwood the three of us are getting together with SHIM and our libraries. We're all participating. We'd like to thank the library for agreeing to participate. It's on our website, it's on our social media. Started April 1st, it's going to go through April 30th. There's a specific amount or types of food that they're looking for, so if anybody's interested, the boxes are at our building, at the library building, and Whitehall and their library, Brentwood and their library. So if anybody's interested, you can drop them off during business hours, everybody's regular business hours, and put them in the boxes. The boxes were donated by 3 Men in a Truck, so they're all labeled. There's some flyers as well in our lobby, and again, we put all that information on our website. Nice little tri-community thing that we're trying to do together. Also, I want to note there'll be Jason mentioned the notion for the co-stars for If It's Water, so that will be on there as well. And other than that, unless anybody has any questions, that concludes my report, Madam President.
I have a question for you, Bob.
Sure.
On that finance person, what will they do? When do they have meetings? What do they do?
For the tri-community, or of the TCC?
Yeah.
That's Allegheny County tax collectors, basically. If you remember a couple years back, they went by county as the designation. They would have the county and this group select who was going to manage and take care of and oversee the tax collection and payments for your wage taxes. It was Jordan, and the vote came in, and it still is Jordan. So they asked for solicited bids for this. There was multiple bids that were submitted in. They went through the packages of the proposals, and then that committee meets, and every community has the ability to weigh in as to what you think. And that's what their main goal is, but they also do some other finance stuff. It's mainly finance officers, so that's why it makes sense to have our finance officer involved in that.
Okay, thanks.
Makes sense, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, moving on then to finance with Mr. Hayhurst.
Thank you, Madam President. Everyone has received the March financial reports. In summary, we're starting to see property tax revenues come into play. We're at about 1.46 million out of a budget of 7.4 million. Earned income tax is popping up as well. It's about 851,000. County taxes are about 143,000. In total, that makes up about 2.449 million of total revenue. It's about 21% of the budget amount for those three items alone. Out of the grand total budget of 14.37 million, we're at about 20.25% of the total revenue for the year. Expenditures, we're at about 23.9% of total expenditures based on what the budget is. The top 5 expenditure line items are at about 2.5 million, and they make up about 73% of the total expenditures to date. So from the sewer funds perspective, the total revenue that we've received to date is about 19.8% of the 8.39, rounding up total budget for the sewer funds for the year. Expenditures to date are at 22.37%. So expenditures are running a little ahead of revenues right now, which is expected due to, it's still very early in the year. But that's a summary of the line items to date. If there's any questions, I can answer them as best I can. There'll be more next week as usual.
Thank you, Mr. Hayhurst.
Yep.
Moving on then to Public Works with Mr. Rambo.
Thank you, Madam President. I will give my report at next week's meeting, and I will pass it off to Mr. Lubin.
Thank you, Mr. Rambo. Thank you, Madam President.
Excuse me one moment. We'll have a handout here in a minute. I'm going to save the road program till the end. A couple quick updates would be that and Jason already touched on the one, that the contract for the M34, M42 is near completion. We do only have some restoration items that's pending that we have to work out. For utility projects, the one thing that I wanted to mention tonight was, and you probably have seen it on the news and some other avenues, media avenues, Beck's Run Road is closed to all traffic. So basically, if you were to go down Agnew, you could not go to Carson Street or vice versa. You would not get through. That includes our emergency management personnel as well, and they are all aware of that. That is to last between 4 to 6 weeks. So once they are able to get through, they will be notified. By right now, the tentative schedule is 4 to 6 weeks total closure, that nobody gets up or down. We also notified our waste management personnel so that they can make the arrangements to get around there too for the garbage pickup down in that area for those handful of streets. Moving on from that, we did have a meeting. Bob and I met again. This was the second meeting with the representatives from the Baldwin Soccer Association, Joe and Tim. We had a lot of good conversation there, and we decided the next thing that we should do in conjunction with some of the things that we're looking at for the a bid scope that's going to be going out is to walk the site with them. Some of the things were, when you talk about them in a meeting, it would make more sense to go down there and really visually see some of these things. So we had a lot of good conversation. Next visit will be a site visit, which is going to be this month. So that should be a final thing to walk through and try to adhere to some things that we are able to do in the short term and maybe some future plans to help them out with their particular association. The pool operations, MCOR has started. They started with the demo last month. Jason alluded to, there is, the heaters in, there's some slabs have been poured, some piping's in, and they actually had to do some electrical. One of the things about the electrical, the only point I wanted to make is there was no disconnect in that particular electrical facility, so we have to add one. They actually had to have Duquesne Light come out, shut the power down for the whole complex down there so that the electricians could work because it was live, and they didn't really want to work on the live with everything that they have to do. That could not be there could be a very bad resolution to that one. So Duquesne Light had come down, powered down. They have done some work, and I saw that they were back in there today, but I didn't see what all they were doing. We had a necessary emergency sanitary sewer repair that we had to do for the building. If anybody was down around the back, you'll see the cones, you'll see the barricades down there. It was the building is 70 years old, somewhere in that neighborhood. And the line that came in, it's a cast iron line. And in that vehicle bay area, you have a lot of things that go down there. Specifically, you'll have some salt residue that go down there. It's a vehicle bay washout area as well at the time for all those years. So that ductile iron pipe had some issues, and there was actually a collapse that had to be done. It ended up being almost 12 feet deep. Then you get down there, you'll see the layout of what all we had to do. There were like 2 other pipes there. One was conduit, one was the storm line that goes in there, things we didn't even know. That were underneath that area. So it has been done. We now put cleanouts in there, so any future type of maintenance for this building in that area, specific to that area, we at least now have access. We didn't have any access before. We tried cameraing, we tried various things that we have, and we could not make it around certain areas. Now we have that availability, but it was an emergency for the whole building. And we're a public building, we had to get the services back in order.
Thank goodness for the mechanics pit. That was
that was our storage
overflow
tank.
backup.
Yeah, that was the storage tank for the interim. We have one update on, we have the Hill International truck that they came in and they signed on, we signed the documents over to them for the finances. It's at the Stevenson equipment for the outfitting, and we probably should anticipate that somewhere in the next month to have the first Hill International that we ordered 18 months ago completed. So we should have that back. Unfortunately, it'll stay new for a little while longer. We won't have to use it till about November or December of next year. Maybe not. No, so, but we will have that particular truck will be coming in. And in the interim, We have some vehicles, we're working with the chief, and we have this couple, the code car and some other things, so we're gonna be starting to put some things on municipal bid at different times strategically, thinking that the cars may be better to go on now, the trucks that we have may be better to go on like in the summer before the fall and winter, when people are really looking for those things. That's our current strategy. Gonna look into the municipal bid history, but I think that's what I'm seeing so far, so that's why we'll go with that. We did have a facilities appraisal assessment, something that hadn't been done since, I don't know, Bob, if you don't remember the date, it's been a while. It's been a while, it should have been done. So those folks came out and we went to all of our facilities. It was a 2-day process. They looked at the salt building, they looked at all of our fields, they looked at all this building, they looked at the chief's side, they looked at all of our equipment, they logged all of that stuff. We'd give them, you know, different things, models, years, makes, and they went around, took photos, and they have their own uploading that they do. So I'm not sure what all that'll end up being, but there'll be a number at some point.
Yeah, our insurance requires that to be updated. It was well beyond the update date that they require. They would not have, our insurance renews every October. They said, you know, you need this done before the next insurance renewal, or we're not going to be able to give you a quote. So we have to do this.
Thank you.
Sorry, guys. I'm just gonna pass these out. This is some information for all of the road program for this year. And we're gonna go through these, go through them quickly. Actually,
Thank you, Andy.
yep. John, okay, can you pass one down to Patton, please? And, oops, and, okay, one, please. Thank you. Oh, that was there. Yeah. Remember, you got one, yeah. So the first page, just want to give you a quick update on the new program that we're putting in for the rejuvenation process. If you recall, I said I have a handful of roads that I've listed, mostly utility companies, that we are going to look at putting into this program. I said, however, I needed to go out with one of the vendors to verify whether or not some of these roads are candidates or not. So we had to verify if the candidates were good or not. That'll be on the first page. So those roads, it's color coded. It tells you which roads we're going to end up doing. Originally it was almost 60,000 square yards that we were looking at that I put together, and it's down to almost 40,000 square yards. So it's going to come into that 50,000 range. Some of the roads we looked at, they were the candidates. They were X'd off because they were too hilly or too windy, or there was already enough surface cracks coming through that it didn't make sense to use their product. So we did narrow it down for all the candidates. It is all color coded there, and you should be able to see the finality. There's about 4 borough paved roads that we included. To give you a visual, for example, Green Glen. Green Glen has the big hill going down. Well, we threw that one out, that portion, but the Green Glen in the back that does a loop, we kept that in. There's an example of one of the areas we were able to do, and one of them we weren't because of the severity of the hill.
Slightly steep.
Very steep. And then here's another example that we threw out, which was Manhasset. So when you think about Manhasset coming from Barbara, you got the hill there, and then you have the wind at Oakleaf, and then as you start down Manhasset, you have another hill and a turn. So that had to go out. It's not conducive for that particular product. So you see on there, they are color coded. We did go through them, and we came up with a candidate list with a hybrid of utility paved roads that we're going to do, 4 roads of our own that we paved that we're going to do. They're a little bit newer. And there is a demo road. You'll see that is Brickley. That's the free demo. They were going to do one side and leave the other side alone. And we're going to use that as our, interpretive road to see if this is working and see if one side's cracking. I mean, I think all of you saw the pictures before that illustrated some of the things that they're seeing out there in the field. So anyway, that is the total. That is what we will end up speccing out. We'll bid that out after the road program, probably within another month, because they don't want to come in until like July. So we have a little bit of time. We felt it was more urgent to get the road program specs together, get those out on the street for the bid, and then we will shortly be piggybacking onto that particular project. So any questions on that portion for the rejuvenation side?
Now, is there any, and you might have mentioned this last week, is there any need to notify residents, is, you know, if a dog walks over it right
They do.
after, is there?
They put out notifications, they put out signage. The process itself is about an hour after it's been applied, that you can drive on, walk on. As far as somebody walking out, walking their dog on it sooner than they should, I mean, I don't know, buyer beware at that point.
No, I
but-
mean, just as long as they're aware.
But they do put out notifications, they do.
Okay.
And then they sand it when they're done. There's an aggregate that they, a crushed aggregate that they put over top. They call it sanding, but it's actually
Yeah.
crushed.
No, just because it's new.
It is
right?
new.
It's new to
It
our
is
borough,
new.
and so.
And we are gonna put, we're gonna have information on the In-Community magazine. We're gonna put some information out there, plus they'll be notified. The In-Community magazine will be out to the residents in early June, so that kind of dovetails right into what we're doing.
And does Whitehall or Brentwood do any of this rejuvenation?
I don't know if Brentwood does. I mean, I do know that Bethel does, Mount Lebanon does, South Fayette. South Fayette is getting into it, actually. They hadn't done it, they're getting into it. Peters does it. Castle Shannon, some cities north.
Okay.
I mean, I don't have the whole list.
No,
but I know
no, no,
that's
no,
the person I was
just
talking
curious.
to was telling me those are some of his
Yeah.
clients right now.
Okay.
And there is an uptick. All of the pavement management assessment programs that I've either attended or been on webinars, this is getting and growing legs, as you saw by some of the testimonials that are out there with the pictures and some of the people that are responding. The only thing that they're working on now, it's actually, they have it in front of PennDOT. What they want to do is to try to make it available for liquid fuels. That's their next step. That's what they're presenting to them. So I think once they get that in there, then I think it's even going to be more of a product that you will see out there. Does that answer your question?
So, well, one more. So all the yeses in column A are essentially in the hat.
Yeah, everything that says yes, that were a candidate, that was good. After writing them, those were candidates that would work.
Okay. One other thing.
Mhm.
That, the compound that's put on there, they kind of grind it in, right?
No, it's an asphalt, it's a sealant spray.
They just spray it.
Yeah, it'll be a big tube with like 12 or 18 nozzles coming out, and they go down and spray it, and then they shortly come by and they put the crushed stone over it.
Okay.
Okay, so now I wanted to move on. If there's no more questions on that, I wanted to move on the actual road program. So the next page is the road program itself. These were the final selections that we used. I tried to simplify this for me, which is basically hiding columns. So you'll see some numbers on the far left on that particular page. It starts with 1, goes to 4, then to 5A. Those were things that I use in terms, but those were streets. If you turn it over to the other side, you'll see that there was, the numbers go to 30-something, right? So 45, I'm sorry. So there was 45 streets that I reviewed, felt were in need of pavement. We ended up with this condensed version of maybe 15 or 16. So to get, when we mirror it with our opinion of probable costs, that's what we had to come down to. But originally, my original list was about 45 streets. With that original list is also $4 million price tag. That's the one that I went over with you last month. So we had to bring it down to within our budget and come up with what made the most sense and prioritize for volume, for density, for residents, which one is more severe. If you have two that are similar, one serves a dead end and one serves an arterial way, we're gonna go with the one that's an arterial street. So we look at that, that's the way we look at these, we pick them and we prioritize. So the ones that you see in the, we'll call it spring peach color, those are our standard 4-inch mill and overlay roads that are getting done. The ones that you see in the, we'll call it fuchsia right now, we'll call it fuchsia flower. Those were two that we called for the add alternates. And when at the end here, the reason being is we have an OPC for all of the roadways. These were close to making the grade, and if the numbers come in well, we might be able to add these in. We don't have to, our base bid, we're gonna be required to put out there for the contractor. If we give them an alternative for maybe a couple of the roads, if the money's come in good, if the bid comes in good, we might be able to add a couple roads. And we usually work with contractors to figure out like, well, this road, you know what, can we add a little bit onto this road or something? We're able to do some things out in the field. But that at least gives us our template of what we can do and what we what we're gonna be required to do under the base bid, and what we might be able to add. Okay, so that's the fuchsia color, and then on the back, you'll see that there is the, we'll call it moss green color for the spring, again, we're keeping the spring mode. That's an area off of 5th and 6th that hasn't been done for 30-plus years or more. So while we're in there, there's some alleys in there, there's some smaller areas in there. We're just gonna go in there and knock that out. Most of that area is deplorable, really in bad shape. You might get a little spot here or a little spot there that you look at and say, oh, that isn't bad. Yeah, 20 feet isn't bad.
Yeah.
But then the other 100 is. So you can't just pick and choose. You go in there and you do it and you get out of there. And that would be, that'll be the last time we'll have to go back into there for a while. And we'll catch 6th Street, which is the main street going in and out of there at a later date. But that whole plan is what you see there for a 2-inch mill and overlay. So a lot of those will be available for the liquid fuels. That is part of the liquid fuels contract, is that area. So that is the final paving list. We are going to put it in the In-Community magazine. We'll put it out there. Of course, we'll know better when we have the bids next month. But currently, that is the plan. Okay?
Do you know when they're gonna start?
Well, we have to wait. The bids will be open in May. And once the bids are open in May, engineering checks all their docs. We have a notice to proceed, and then we come up with a schedule. So the earliest would be in June, and I would say it's probably going to be later than that.
Oh, okay. I bet the residents would be notified, like, whatever street.
Yes.
Okay.
That's a requirement for the contractors. They do notify the residents. We put up signs. Chief gives us the temporary no parking signs that they put up. We grab about 500 from them every year.
Yeah.
They're out there. The contractor labels them, puts the dates, put tape over them when the
okay.
dates change, and there's notifications hand delivered to each and every resident
Okay.
in those
Very
areas.
good.
So there's plenty of notification, and we put it out. We have our social media
Yeah.
page, and then once they see these big, pieces of
Trucks.
equipment coming in, they
Okay.
know something's going on.
Yeah, I'm glad Churchview from Cathell to Marion.
Yes, that's the same. We held off
Good.
because we were told Columbia Gas might continue.
Right.
But they had stopped. So
Yeah.
from Cathell to almost Green Glen, that last
Yeah.
bad portion is now going to get done.
That's good.
Randy, I have a
Okay,
question.
thank you.
Under the scope of work,
Yes.
obviously, some of them, they have to do with like a 4-inch mill and all that. So then you go over to the next page and it's 2-inch mill, 2-inch wearing. Why?
It's basically a 4-inch mill and overlay. So you're going to get about 2.5 inches of binder, 1.5 inches of top. In our industry, that's how we categorize it.
But
We
what's
take out
the-
4, we
yeah,
put back 4.
Yeah, what's the difference between the two?
The reason that the 2-inch mill and overlay is those are roads that are already usually at a gutter line, the water table showing for the most part. Lesser traffic, maybe level, and we're trying to get more bang for our buck.
Gotcha.
So you at least get them cleaned up. You're not going to be taking care of any well, you would take care of base repairs if we find them. Honestly, in some of the roads that we've been doing since I've been here, they've called for a 4-inch mill and overlay. In some of these roads, you can't get 4 inches. You're already down to the base stone.
Okay.
Before when the miller starts going through.
Thanks.
So we look at some that we take curbs out, some that we leave in. We try to make a common sense judgment call.
And given that, the 5th and 6th Street area, given that it's not a main corridor is
Right.
really why.
Yeah, but
Yeah, it's a dead end.
Yeah, right.
It's dead end, there's
Yeah.
cul-de-sac
I'm familiar with
and
it.
things like that, okay?
And Randy, one more
Yeah.
thing. I'm looking at the sunshine yellow color here.
See, you're staying with the theme, I like it.
Yeah, is that bumblebee yellow or? So
Sunflower.
So the estimated length and feet, just for anyone, so for the first one for Cloverfield, the 960, but 3 columns over, what does that 2773, what does that represent?
2020, that's total square yards on the street. So if you take the
Square
length times
yards,
width
okay,
divided by
okay.
9, it gives you the.
Because I
square
know
yard.
we've looked at, you've provided me in the past, we've looked at lane miles.
Well, we talked about that, like
Right.
for some of that work that I've already presented before.
Okay.
They talk about lane miles or total road miles for
This,
the borough.
the way, because of the square yards, the way the contractors bid work, they bid the wearing based on a square yard
Square
total,
yard, okay.
and that's how they anticipate
Yeah,
their
milling-
work.
milling.
That's their measurement
Yeah,
system.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And binders, tonnage.
Tonnage,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But the milling square yards,
Milling
the
and the
wearing
top
square
is
yards,
square yard.
and that's how they base their product when they bid it, based off of those items.
Yeah.
And for the
Curbs are
spirit
linear
of-
foot. those sorts of things.
Okay.
And for the spirit of simplicity, just trying to give you the snapshot, and I want to reinvent the wheel, it's all there. I have rows hidden. This spreadsheet goes out to like 17 rows. So it talks about casting, it talks about water valves, it talks about curb removal, it talks about curb flares, it talks about catch basin tops and things like that. You didn't need to know that for tonight.
Yeah.
You wanted to know what the roads.
You have rhythm and balance, Randy.
Thank you. I tried.
Going back to what you guys there, Mr. Rambo, you got, 5,000 on the first page, 5,800, and then on the second page, you've got another 5,000, a little over. So you've got 2 miles of roads there, almost, that we're attempting to address.
The lineal feet you
Lineal
did?
feet, yes.
Yeah.
Now, I know.
Now, that's
there's-
not lane mile, that's actual, the whole
Right,
road.
the whole, yeah,
There's
right.
2 miles of, that's the whole, 2 miles of roads.
I saw they started digging up Churchview at Sunoco. I know that's
Yes,
not us, but do you have any intel on when that horrible strip of Churchview is gonna be done?
No.
Okay.
I don't know. I know their equipment there. I know they're doing that. My guess is for as long as it's been, they probably want to wait till the weather is going to be conducive for them to put the pavement down. That'd be my guess. There's no additional work that I'm aware of that they have to do. They've milled it, so chances are within a week they're going to be on paving.
And the 2 holes that I swear are housing now people by the stop sign at Churchview and St. Pierre Bank.
Yeah.
Swallow a car.
That whole
Yeah.
thing's.
So that was milled today.
Tank traps.
Oh, they milled all the
That's
way to
milled,
St.
it's
Pierre?
milled all the way
Perfect.
to
Okay,
St.
good.
I
Because
didn't think
those
you knew that,
holes
'cause it's
were-
all the way there.
Okay,
That's
because
good.
I had
That's
seen
good.
it
It
was
was
just
getting
in front of
bad
Sunoco.
Yeah,
Oh, good.
no, they're all the way now to Sankey.
Oh, my God.
And they have a little bit off to the Willet, they a little bit down
It's
into
gonna
the
be so
side.
nice to drive on that part.
I know.
So
We're not gonna have
that's
that.
that's the road program. Then again, it will be put out there in various media outlets. Any other questions on the road programs? I'm just going to finish it with the one last thing once we're done. You guys are good with the road program?
Yeah.
Okay. The last thing, yeah, sure. And then the last
Land the
page.
plane, Randy, land the plane.
I'm bringing it in, pilot to co-pilot. So, the last page is, this was at Violytics. Before, I passed it around and I said, the one color on there that's not good is red. Red is not good on this particular, it's called an EMI, an Evaluation Maintenance Index. I finished everything that I believe should have been finished, because there's no sense me riding through the areas of Keyport, Nodler, that whole thing's getting redone. There's water lines being put in there, Grace, all that. So I didn't go over there. But everything else has been driven. And the total index, there is, if you look on the left-hand side, it's 52.11 miles. And out of that, 17.7 are in a state of, that should be repaved. If that's to generally say that's, the red is a road that should be done.
And we're doing 2.
Well, you can't get them all.
No,
I mean,
no,
you
of
can't.
course,
So-
no, of course, no, I mean,
But
just.
what it does is, this is mirroring, and somebody asked the question before, is this kind of what we're expecting? The answer is yes. I think we talked about there were some years that maybe they weren't doing any or as much as they should have been. Now, these last couple of years, we do have a number. It would make no sense to try to say, oh, let's just pave the whole thing.
No,
But,
you can't.
but it does give you a snapshot. It shows you that there's a lot of roads, they're not gonna get better, especially after this last week. You had all this wet weather come in, all this saturation, and then the temperatures drop to 24 degrees or whatever. That doesn't help. So you're gonna see more potholes coming up in the next week, and these roads that maybe were a little bit, they're gonna get a little bit worse. But we're trying to prioritize to get the worst. But this now gives you the snapshot of that whole plan. And so basically, the colors from the teal through the light green to yellow, those are roads that have been done in the last 3 or 4 years, and or more, maybe 5 years. That makes sense. That's why they're the lighter colors. They're not in need. But roads that haven't been done for a long time, as you see, there's almost about 10 of that's in the, I'll say orange reddish, and then 17 in the red. So there's about over half of the roads that are, we're gonna have to be thinking about. Okay, so that's the full snapshot now. So, any other questions on the road program or selections? Okay. Madam President, that concludes my report.
I have a question for you.
I just asked you, I said, any other questions?
Yeah, this has nothing to do with the roads.
Go ahead.
See, and I was waiting for you to say,
That's
anybody have
fine.
any other questions?
Yeah,
Because then
okay.
I'd have said, yeah, I do. You have a meeting coming up with the Soccer Association at Coolwood.
We don't know when it is yet. We're gonna set it, yeah. A site meeting.
Can I be included in that?
We can certainly reach out to you, see if you're available at the time. They're limited at the time that they can be there. That's the only thing.
I know,
So,
I know. But the only reason why I'm I'm suggesting is because every now and then, comments or questions are raised about Coolwood Park, the soccer fields, and meetings that are taking place that I don't know anything about, so I can't comment. You know, so I like to be included, if that's okay.
I have no problem with it, quite honestly, but I will tell you, it's those two that are in charge of it. I think we've had a really good rapport with them, and they have their expectations are, I think they're realistic expectations, and we're trying to coordinate the effort and try to help them when we can and have a long-term plan. That's what we want to talk about.
Okay.
Sure. There's some of the things they were asking about. I think there's some things that we can help with, and then there's some things I think need a lot more planning, which would turn it over to this broader scope.
Okay.
Bob, is there any dedicated funding currently right now in the budget for BWSA improvement?
No.
Has that been made clear to them?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
100%.
Yes.
And then we've talked about, that's why we're meeting.
Well, no, not
Yeah.
to say that there won't be in the future.
But
I
that's
just
why we're
want
meeting,
that
we're
to-
like,
right.
we're gonna walk down and we're gonna say, all right, you know, here's what we could probably do this year with a couple $100, a couple $1,000 of this and that this
Right.
year. What would you like to see moving forward, small wise stuff, small stuff that we could put in the budget, in the parks project, or in the parks budget portion of the budget. And then, long term, that's gonna require additional planning, additional, look ahead for, funding. That's why we talked, with Jason, there was one, potential for this, a grant that we're looking at. Okay, well, maybe we could look into that, if we, wanna go forward with that, but, stuff along those lines. There's a lot of buckets, to get in there. I mean,
No,
the expectations that John was talking about, the people that are talking to him, they expect this to happen immediately, they want this now, and they
And
expect
that's
everything.
what-
That's not gonna happen.
Right.
And these guys they've been great to work
Yes,
with.
they have.
Their expectations are, small stuff right now, just little things like, hey, can we, get the bathrooms reopened up? Because of the vandalism, which we're doing, and we did that, we put the cameras in, so, it's little things like that, that we're trying to work through.
No, I'm sure they're good discussions, so,
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
But in the future, looking at grants and so forth, those are things that would come up.
Yeah, we're trying to also,
But
they're
there's nothing
managing
right
our
now.
expectations along with us managing their
Right.
expectations.
Yeah, I think that's important.
Well, we have a list that is planned for that bond issue that we just did. Right?
Correct, yeah.
Should there be anything left over at the end, could that be applied to that?
I don't believe there will be anything, but yeah, if there is, and that's something that we mentioned, we said, depends on where we end up on
Yeah.
all these projects, but,
Right.
again, what the expectation is, we're talking a couple $1,000s versus, $200,000, so they understand that there's, there's limitations on that, as well.
And I think it was very clear that the use of the fields, with the rotations that they have, or lack thereof, quite honestly, it's hard to get grass to grow there. It's just, they realize that. They're actually working on trying to get different fields possibly to do a rotation schedule, things that they're looking at with other communities. So we're gonna kick a lot of stuff down, around when we go down there. There's some things that they pointed out, and we're gonna walk through. We know we've talked to you before about the stormwater tank that's underneath, and kind of walk them through as to where that is, and we're gonna show them that, maybe why it could be used for something, but not for other things, so.
Yeah, and
those kinds of things.
And there's other considerations. We've already put money, a lot of money. Everybody thinks that we haven't put anything. We put a lot of money into that park.
Sure have.
And, we have other things that are needs, the fencing, the security fencing here is a definite need. The upgrades that we put in the 5-year plan for Mackinac as well, because that park has had nothing done to it.
Right.
So, there's other things that we have to look forward to, but we also know that there's some things that we can help them with right now, and that's why we're gonna meet.
Yeah, thank you.
And that will conclude my report, unless there's any other questions.
Thanks, Randy.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Rubin. And that concludes Public Works, so we'll move on to Parks and Recreation with Mrs. Boyer.
Well, thank you, Madam President. I will give my report next week.
Okay. Any report for Cory?
Yes, yeah, she was unable to make it, so I'll give her a report. Start with the Easter egg hunt, which was on this past Saturday. There were 242 kids that attended the event. It was extremely well attended, considering the weather. They kind of had some inside, some outside as the weather was playing. It rained pretty heavy in the morning, so they were unable to do the hunt, the egg hunt outside in the grass because it was just very wet and slippy. So we ended up having it here in the courtyard. But it was extremely well attended. It was good to see. And the library was definitely a great partner with that as well. Community Day, Corey and I met, and she has proceeded along with securing a lot of the vendors, moving towards the completion of that list of vendors, and amongst other things. And then we're going to end up getting with myself and Mr. Lubin and the chief, and we'll do our pre-planning of where things are going to go, how we're going to operate that whole day, and what the expectations are through that. So we're moving along again. Remember, that is Saturday, June 14th is the Community Day, and that would conclude the Recreation Events Director Activity Report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Farrick. Moving on then to zoning and planning with Mr. Egger.
Thank you, Madam President. For the month of March, there were 62 permits issued, bringing our total for the year so far to 136. Fees for March was $13,181.50, bringing our fees for the year to $25,732.39. And that really concludes my report.
Okay, and it looks like there's a planning meeting next Monday.
Yes, I'll be there.
Okay, fantastic. Moving on then to public safety with Mr. D.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to give my report next week. Because of the way the calendar falls this month, Baldwin EMS's board meeting will be this coming Monday. And the Orphans Court for the fire company is Thursday, so I'll have more to report next week.
Perfect. Okay, moving on then to personnel with Mrs. Conley.
And I don't believe there's any report to give, so.
Fantastic. Next is the audience agenda, and anyone in the audience have any issues pertaining to Baldwin they want to speak about? We don't have an audience this evening. So moving on to executive session. I need a motion to go into executive session, please.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second to go into executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll take a 5-minute break. Give you time to clean up, and then we'll resume.
All right, so I'll go ahead and end it now. We're not coming back.
Correct.
Okay. Clear?
I was thinking about the double. What about, what if we go first?
Hey, John, do you know